Hello, aloha, and good afternoon. My name is Jürgen Steinmetz, joining you from the Breaking News Show in Honolulu. Together with eTurbo News, Hawaii News Online, we welcome, as always, Dr. Peter Talo in College Station, Texas. Beautiful day here in Hawaii again. It's quite hot outside, a lot of people at the beach. And so if you can bear it outside, but I'm better off in my 74-degree apartment here with air condition. How are things in Texas, Peter?
Well, it's also very hot here. It's been cooler, but now the summer has really hit. And we would have a lot of people at the beach if we had a beach, but we don't have a beach, so we can't do that. But it probably hit just about 100 degrees, which is about 38 degrees Celsius. So that's pretty warm, to say the least. Luckily, it has not been too humid, so the heat is bearable. And certainly lots of people are doing what I'm doing, which is I get up at 5 in the morning and I walk for about 2 hours between 5:30 and 7:30. So I'm in the house before it gets really terribly too hot. It is interesting you said that you keep your temperature at 74 degrees. According to the principles of the Biden administration, you're not supposed to go below 78 degrees, as you know. That's considered to be an attack on global warming. So, so all of our friends who are ecologists, please keep your temperature at least at 78 degrees.
I do 78 degrees at night because I don't like to have it all that cold at night.
No. But it's not what you like. It's part of global warming. You're not supposed to ever go below 78 degrees.
Well, I love the 74. So let me see. I didn't say that, so just we cut that out, I guess.
That's all right. I won't report you to. We have a mutual friend who's big on climate change, and I won't let him know that you are going below the required 78 degrees minimal.
So that's like when him and I were talking about you in the background on a hot mic, right? So no.
So anyway, but I promise I won't tell anybody that you have your temperature at 74 degrees.
Just today.
Oh yeah, I'm sure tomorrow you're going to make it up and keep your apartment at 80 degrees. So, but that's part of the whole issue of, this is a time when the world is going through all sorts of different things. And one of the issues that we're seeing is the spread of some new diseases, especially monkeypox, which no one quite understands. Before we started the show, we talked about if you have been vaccinated for smallpox, you probably are safe. But of course, most people today are not vaccinated against smallpox because smallpox is pretty much eradicated about 30 years ago, and they stopped giving the vaccine. So if you're under 40, you probably have not been vaccinated.
Yeah, and I know I got my smallpox, I think, as a kid. And it was, when I lived in Germany, mandatory at the time, I believe.
Yes, it was.
Hopefully that will help. So
yeah, that'll help the people, the older group like you and me. But the younger group is going to have a little bit of a problem. They may have to go back. Now, we do have plenty of smallpox vaccine. So we could give that out and that would stop the problem. But it's unknown really how this is spread. Some people think that it may have been confused as a sexually transmitted disease, an STD that was not identified as monkeypox. And so that's a possibility, but they're trying to figure out how this is spreading. Of course, the real issue is tourism. As it picks up, you're going to have diseases spread again because you're mixing populations from around the world. And we have to figure a way to keep people safe and healthy and yet allow tourism to also expand.
And Peter, for clarification, for myself also, monkeypox, is it a deadly disease or is it just something what goes away?
No, it does not appear to be deadly, though it does leave scarring. It puts like warts on the skin,
right?
And then in those leaves scars. So, but nobody wants scarring on their face,
of course.
So, but it is handleable. We can, and the vaccine, should it become a real problem, though the CDC today upped it, but should it become a problem, we could ramp up the smallpox and give everybody either, we don't know, we were told when we took our smallpox vaccine that it was good for life. And that's true, but in my case, I had it when I was 5 years old, which means that I had 71 years ago. Is it really good for life?
But
Ah,
I
no,
hope you don't find out. Let's
no,
see.
I don't want to find out either. But what I'm saying is we could easily produce the vaccine um, and start vaccinating people were that necessary. I'm not so worried about that particular disease. What I am worried about is how we allow tourists to go around the world, people travel, and yet not spread disease from one place to the other. And that's, I think, the serious part that we have to consider.
Yeah, and there are some new places, I guess, where it's safe to travel. One of them is Afghanistan. We just did a story on the current government saying after they took over from the American friendly government that everything is now quite safe. And that comes directly from the tourism minister. There's really not a tourism minister, it's the Minister of Culture and Information. And
Yeah.
tourism is under his umbrella. And he knows America pretty good because he was a prisoner at
In
Guantanamo
Guantanamo.
Bay.
Yeah.
So let's see how this all goes.
Yeah, now I'm not necessarily sure what he's saying is true. I've got another reports about that. It does appear the Taliban have somewhat good control over Kabul, but when you get into the countryside, that control goes all the way down. So, his job as a tourism minister is to promote tourism, and he's not going to say to you, "Don't come because it's unsafe." A few years ago, I was invited to speak in Afghanistan, and by the Minister of Tourism, who told me how safe it was, and then I said, well, let's talk tomorrow about how we'll work this out. And the next day he got blown up. So that was the end of
I
my,
kind of, Peter, obviously, I mean, this a little bit ironic.
yeah.
I would definitely at this point not recommend to have your next vacation in Afghanistan because it's
No.
safe unless, like your son, who's a real adventurist, he might want to consider it.
No, don't even give him the idea because he'll listen to this program. On the other hand, what is a tragedy is that we had these terrible shootings again in Philadelphia and Chattanooga, Tennessee. And in each case, I believe, though I have to check the numbers, of 17 people were wounded and 3 or 4 in each city died. And, that's a real problem. The violence, the wave of violence that has taken place. And we're coming up with really simple solutions to complicated problems. And that's very dangerous. So we have to really think through many of the problems that are taking place. One of the things they're finally admitting is that if a child is a problem child and sent to special ed, by law, by federal law in the United States, those records are sealed and even the courts cannot get into them. So you've identified a person who could be violent. They are afraid to give the diagnosis that they should, and then the police and no one else can find out about that diagnosis. And it says if at 17 I'm violent, by 18 you can't know about it, and that's really dangerous. So I think there's a lot of stuff that has to be thought through very carefully.
Yeah, and Peter, I mean, you know my stand. I think our constitution needs to be changed. We're the only country in the world where anyone can buy a gun, and this is utterly behind the
Well, it's
times.
actually, there are a large number of laws about that. It's that they're not enforced. And the first thing we have to do is enforce the laws. And because you can have a million laws, but if you don't enforce them, there are probably 5 guns in the United States for every person. And so, collecting them would be almost an impossibility. The real issue is we have no mental health, and we have there's patterns of the people who are doing these murders, and they tend to be 18-year-olds without a father, who were raised by an absentee mother, and who were problems in the school system, and the school system also failed them. So we're starting to recognize some of those issues. And that's, again, I don't think anybody needs an assault weapon. I agree with you on that. But on the other hand, I think we have to be really careful not to find a simple solution for a complicated problem. And until we are able to get families stabilized again, we're going to have some issues. So I saw that. One of the things I saw in eTurbo News was that you were talking about, eTurbo News was talking about Jewish life, I think, in Malta. I thought that was kind of an interesting article that.
Yes, and Malta, of course, has the Mediterranean travel show coming up in a few weeks. And that's going to be a big event. And I think people from Israel specifically probably welcome this trend in Malta. And one of the other articles I had, maybe I wanted to talk a little bit about what I found so utterly ridiculous is about the way aviation catering is working. And I have a good friend who worked for the catering company in charge for Lufthansa, United, and all the Star Alliance companies in one of the major airports in Germany, giving me some of the feedback. And it's utterly ridiculous. Did you know, Peter, when you fly, for example, in this case, there are two examples, one on Lufthansa from San Francisco to Munich or to Frankfurt, you're going to be drinking German Coca-Cola. And you're going to have German beer and German water. And this water is shipped by boat from Europe to San Francisco. So recently, a few days ago, it didn't get there on time. So Lufthansa decided not to cater Coca-Cola because they had no contract of buying it in San Francisco. And that's the other way around too. So when you fly on United Airlines and from Munich to San Francisco or to Newark or wherever, you're drinking American bottled water, these cheap 10, 20 cent bottled waters, but they're shipped in by boat to Germany. So sometimes they don't get on time to Germany. So they have to take some of the really good water they have in Germany from the Swiss mountains or from the German Alps instead. And it's the same with the food. The food comes in frozen, shipped in, and the bread is frozen. While all the facilities in this case are in Munich, they have a bakery where they have really good bread and they have really good food. They're freshly made. But American carriers are not buying it because they rather have their frozen food coming in from the US on a ship. It's old by the time it gets there, so they can fly it back. So this is all, when talking about the environment, this is very hostile to the environment to have all this extra energy. And it's utterly ridiculous. There was a funny case my friend told me about ANA, that's the airline in Japan. One of the two major carriers in Japan.
All Nippon Airlines.
Yeah, All Nippon Airlines, part of the Star Alliance. They brought and shipped their water in from Japan. So they had Japanese water and they put it on the plane and they flew it home. But no one wanted the water anymore after they had the nuclear accident in the tsunami crisis in Japan. So all the water remained in Munich. And guess what happened to the water? It was given to the staff canteen. So all the staff from in Munich at the airport were drinking Japanese water. So this is definitely something when we're talking about the environment, our environmental specialists should look into because it's utterly ridiculous.
Right. On top of that, it's one of the reasons why airline food may be so terrible. And, you know, I've written to some of the US carriers and said, I'm paying top dollar for $5,000 or $6,000 or $7,000 ticket, and I expect to have something which is not at the level of a TV time dinner, and yet basically that's what you're getting, and that's totally unacceptable. And I think we're seeing more and more that major corporations need to have an overhaul and need to really think through. They need to think locally. One of the things we're pushing people all the time is just to use local products. Well, you know what? You ought to buy the products from the place where you are and not from around the world. So that's a real problem. And I agree. And I think that would be a really way. I would also be a good marketing tool because airlines could feature, you know, we're coming from wherever. We're coming from Brazil. We're going to have lots of products from Brazil. We're coming from the Czech Republic. We're going to have Czech products and things like that, so that it becomes a real market and not just a standardization where you get the same food no matter where you are. That homogenization hurts tourism. It doesn't help it.
Right. And it's an unstable world, and a lot of things are happening these days. Tourism is on a rebound in a lot of places, and people are ready to travel and ready to go
Yes.
someplace after being locked up. And it looks like every time we're making a lot of progress, there's a little bit of things what's pushing it back again, isn't
That's
it?
right, right, right. I saw today the CDC said they wanted people to have to be remasked again on airplanes. And that's going to be very difficult because people have now have, and they admit it, it's not for health reasons. That's the part. It's that they want to say that they have the right as a health organization to determine what it is and not a judge. So it's a political reason, not a health reason. And that's really awful because when you're on a long-term flight, if it's a health reason, I understand. But if it's only, I want to show you that I'm more powerful than you and that it's my bureaucratic level, that's a little scary. And, as we have around the world, I think we're seeing all sorts of signs of fascism that are taking place. It might be fascism light, but it's still somewhat fascism where governments don't want to give up power because they got it during COVID. And now they're having a problem that people are just not paying attention. And that's scary when people do not believe the World Health Organization and the whole medical world has lost the confidence of the traveling public. And that's a very scary situation.
And just in some of the breaking news, what's coming out as we speak is Delta Airlines is ordered by a federal court in Atlanta to finally publish a legal finding about a whistleblower case, what kind of shows that security and safety issues were bypassed by mechanics. And this was ordered by Delta upper management, what actually makes flying that airline in these particular circumstances unsafe. Delta appealed the decision to have this made public, and this appeal was just lost. It just happened a few hours ago. So it's going to be an interesting case, and you're going to be able to read it on eTurbo News.
Well, I'm going to look forward to reading it, and I think, if without safety and without security, we won't have tourism. And these companies may be trying to cut a few dollars here or there, but you know what? They're going to kill the chicken that lays the golden eggs, and that's going to be a big mistake.
Yeah. Well, you're going back to Mexico, aren't you?
I am. Yes, I'll be going back 2 or 3 times, and when I have some specific things to tell, I'll be discussing that. But I just came from Mexico, and that was a really interesting experience. I was in outside the city of Leon in a place called Guanajuato, which is a beautiful city. It's very much like a medieval Spanish city. And we're talking about developing security and safety and cleaning the place up. Because the first and the best way to create good safety and good security is have good cleanliness and beautification. And I'm a strong advocate for using wise ecology. That's kind of where we began. And I think that's a good place for us to end, where the importance of having good ecology not only creates beauty, but it also creates safety and security.
Yeah, and for those that don't know, Peter is an expert in safety and security. And part of our business model is to help destinations, help hotels, and help anyone who wanted to overhaul their safety and security policies, ideas, police training. So just click on contact and contact us, and we can get you in touch with Peter to find out what we may be able to do for your destination and your business.
And we may be able to increase it quite a lot.
Absolutely, Peter. I really believe in what you're doing. I mean, even before we worked together, I always thought it's amazing, really, how you have contributed to making our industry just a little bit, or quite a bit safer in some cases.
Yeah, I worked very hard at it, and I was very lucky. 2 years ago, I was inducted into the International Police Hall of Fame because it's a pioneer in tourism security around the world.
And even here locally, many of those that are traveling to Hawaii, our police station right in Waikiki at the beach Tell us about this real quick. Why is this police station right on Waikiki
Oh,
Beach?
that's actually that was one of my ideas for Waikiki. It was in the 1990s, and we were having some really terrible problems on Waikiki, and the Japanese Consul General threatened Hawaii with putting a travel warning, asking Japanese citizens not to come to Hawaii. And of course, the Japanese citizens contribute a lot to the economy of Hawaii, and that kind of scared it. So we created something called HVISA, which was Hawaii Visitor Industry Security Association, HVISA. And it was really a wonderful model, because it was people from the city of Honolulu, from the governor's office, from the police department, from the hospitals, from the academic world. I was there as kind of like the consultant, and the goal was to really reconquer Waikiki, make it safe again for visitors, because it had become really unsafe. And one of the things we wanted was to have a police department right on Kalakala Avenue, the main street there, because of the fact we kind of dressed it up a little bit, and it's got some canoes or rowboats or whatever around it, so it looks kind of surfboards, so it looks very Hawaiian. But the bottom line is the police are right there. We created also a group of retirees who became known as the Aloha Society, and they had walkie-talkies. So if anybody had a problem, they were out and they could inform the police right away. And I'm very proud of that whole project, because today Waikiki is booming. People are not afraid to be on it, but it took a lot of work in order to get from the beginning of the 1990s to, of course, we're 30 years later now, but we see the results of our labor. And the fact is that instead of Waikiki being a ghost town with nobody there, you live right in the heart of it. You know that it's really a booming place.
Yeah, it's
And,
definitely not a ghost town. I can attest to that.
yes, and that's but it was on the path to becoming a ghost town. And if we had not formed HVISA, I think you would see a very different Waikiki today. So this is really something that we should be doing around the world, taking places that are having problems and turning them from negative into positive. And that brings everybody up, brings the economy up, brings the tax system up. But you can only work if you're all working together. You can't have competition. You got to be all on the same team.
No, thank you, Peter. And again, anyone interested in talking to Peter about this and your own project, just click on contact, very easy, on any of our websites, and we get you in touch.
Right.
Anyone else who wanted to listen to this again, we're probably going to repeat it in the next hour or two, a few times, like over the next 24 hours. And after this, you can go to breakingnewsshow.com or anytime to breakingnewsshow.com, and you can find all our new breaking news shows. And if you want to go back even further or look at all our content, just click on our YouTube link. It's also on every website we have. Thank you very much, Peter. And
Thank you.
hope,
You have a
we see
wonderful
you again soon.
afternoon. And it's evening here. It's afternoon in Hawaii. Enjoy. Maybe go to the beach. You have I wish if I were in Hawaii, I'd go to the beach.
Absolutely. Nothing
All
else
right.
to do. No, I'm
Take
just
care.
kidding.
Bye-bye.
Okay, thank you, Peter. Bye-bye.